Welcome back to the final whistle for another stream on the channel, and tonight is the match preview. Leicester City kick off the 25-26 championship season at home to Sheffield Wednesday. Yes, the game is ahead. It got confirmed yesterday. It did get rumoured that the game wasn't going to go ahead due to player strikes and all that. A lot happening at Sheffield Wednesday, a lot of traumatic time, and I think as football fans in general, we really sympathise with Sheffield Wednesday fans and that at this time, and hope Chanziri sells that football club and they move on quite swiftly without him. So, yeah, we're going to be chatting with my good mate James from the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. He's going to tell me how real bad things are at Sheffield Wednesday and could they get even worse at the weekend regarding the football result. But we're going to get the lowdown on the Owls and Mr. Chanziri. Guys, always hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new and you haven't subscribed already. Please get down and do so. It'd help me out massively. Before we get James in, let's see who's in the chat. So, Mr. Whistle deserves more subscribers now. I appreciate it. Trial and Error, how are we? SSV, hello. Hello, Renee. Hello, George. Hello, Tom. Hello, Spencer. And hello, Apple Juice. How are we? So let's get my good mate in, James from the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. James, how are we?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you very much, Jack. Thanks for having me on, as always. I don't think I'm quite as upbeat as what you are for this upcoming season, but I'm sure we're going to get onto that in a second.
We are. James, where can everyone find you, mate, and what you do regarding Sheffield Wednesday?
Yeah, it's the Wednesday Till I Die podcast, so at WTID Pod on all of the socials. Just search for us on YouTube, you'll find us. At the moment, most nights, it seems, because there's a hell of a lot to talk about. Not so much on signings, not so much on transfers or anything like that. It's all to do with things off the pitch, players leaving and everything else. Stands closing. Yeah, I kind of forgot that there was a football game this weekend, to be honest, but here we are,
Leicester's game will go ahead. I know that it was very much talked about, wasn't it, with player strikes and all that, and Chanziri this and all that. They're in some traumatic times. They're in the absolute mess of it, Sheffield Wednesday.
We're in the mud, Jack. We're in the mud.
Very much. That's probably the best phrase to use. But talk to me about where it all starts then regarding Mr. Chanziri and how bad it starts and where we are now with everything.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on and on for hours and hours, given where it is. He came in, 10.5 years ago now.
Yeah. Took
over from Milan Mandaric. Yeah, we had some good times, nearly getting to the promised land, 90 minutes away from getting to the Premier League against Hull, which they obviously remind us quite often when we play them. And yeah, the following season got to the playoffs, and then it's just been kind of a steady decline. There was selling the stadium and things, and players, we kind of gave players big contracts, they couldn't leave. Then that was kind of the start of the demise, really. When we then got relegated out of the championship. And do you know what, I think it's one of those where now when you look back, there's so many points where you think, why did we just kind of let that happen? But there was clearly cash flow issues right through. The fact that we have the most expensive season tickets and they go on sale in January for a season that gets underway in early August is just beyond me, really. But as fans, we just kind of accept it, which we shouldn't do, really. We bought a third shirt that's not even been released yet. We bought that kind of again 6 months ago just because it's going to have the old badge on it. Didn't even see a mock-up design or anything, and we just went mad for it. But I think the problem is just him and the way that he conducts business. He can't deal with anyone whatsoever. Anyone that's come in at the football club, whether that be a manager or other people kind of behind the scenes, he's always falling out with them. And and they've either left or been sacked, one way or the other. He does seem to be the common denominator, and he just doesn't have any sort of business acumen whatsoever. We all, football is a business now, and I think there's so much untapped potential at Sheffield Wednesday, and he just keeps making wrong decision after wrong decision constantly. We don't sell players. Ironically, this is the only season where we've actually moved players on. We sell Jerry Gassama to Rangers for 2.2 million. We all said he was worth about 10. We got laughed at. He scored 4 goals, in Champions League qualifiers already for Rangers. And the season's only just got underway as well. So, like I said, we don't sell players at all. We've just kept hold of them. Don't really move them on. And another one, Fazio Delabashiru, we let him go on a free. He's at Lazio now, in the Serie A. It's just so many poor decisions, so many, he called us customers, which is a big no-no. You don't call fans of a football club customers. I know, strictly speaking, if you want to be pedantic, yes, we are, but that's not really how you get people on side. And it's just been one thing after another. And then most recently, he's not paying the players' wages. 4 out of the last 5 months, the wages have been late. Last month, they were owed for 2 months. So they went a full month without pay. And I think they went another 2 weeks as well. That does look like it's going to be all sorted out tomorrow. I mean, we've had embargoes left, right, and centre. We've had embargoes for not paying the players, not paying HMRC, not paying other clubs. I think there was 4 English clubs that we'd not paid for transfers and things. And then we've also got a transfer fee ban as well. That was for 3 windows. For those that don't know, basically you can default on payments for 30 days. If it goes over that 30-day period, you get a 3-window transfer ban. We've got that for last season. The clock reset in June. We've already amassed over 30 days in July as well. So we've already, in this next 12-month period, already gone over 30 days. So now we can't, according to the rules, we can't pay a fee for a player. That includes a loan fee as well, by the way, Jack, for 2 years now, for the summer of 2027, which is, I don't even know what league we're going to be in at that point. But this is just, it's just a rapid decline. What is it, 90 days, 100 days since we played Watford on that last game of the season. And since then, it's just been, just one thing after another. Staff aren't being paid as well, Jack. I mean, that is just the lowest of the low. And then, of course, we've got the North Stand, the shirt that I am wearing there. That the North Stand, that's what the stand that I sit in. That's where my season ticket is. For those listening, Leicester fans, if you've been to Hillsborough, if you're looking out from the away end, it's a stand to your left-hand side, the cantilever one. That's it's going to be shut at the first. Well, it looks like it's going to be shut. The club say they're trying to get it open. I can't see that happening in a million years. So everyone's going to have to be relocated for that first game against Stoke next week.
There's a lot of issues.
That's an understatement of the year.
That's just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? There's a lot of issues. George talks about here, if you don't like it, don't come, is what he's said in the past, Chanzeri. And do you know what? Fans are always the ones that get the brunt of it in the end. These owners, Chanzeri doesn't care. I believe the Sheffield MPs have even contacted him for comment, and he said it's got nothing to do with you at all. The end of the day, he needs to sell the club. I think everyone sympathises you. I think Sheffield United fans even do, because it's more than football. And that's
the worst thing. That is the worst thing that can happen when your rival fans, your close rivals as well, are actually feeling sorry for you. I want the banter. I want us to be, taking the piss out of each other constantly. But when you've got them actually feeling quite sorry about the state that we're in, I think that's the lowest of the low, to be fair.
You look at the players leaving, Josh Windass, Smith, Patterson as well left. Key players to Sheffield Wednesday last season, they decided to leave because they'd had enough. They didn't get paid. They had a right to leave the contract after 2 weeks when handing in the notice. Danny Rowe left the club. I mean, he was one being linked very much with Leicester until he didn't get interviewed. Chanzeri, according to many reports, the compensation were £1 million, and then he wanted £5 million. So it's like, this guy's got to be taking the piss here, to be honest, if other teams are actually interested in the manager. But that's keeping Danny Rowe at his own will. And you can see why Danny Rowe had enough. The thing is, he worked under a real idiot, to be honest. He had to build the relationship with the fans, the players. He had to do everything around the club, something Chanzeri should have been doing, by the way. And that relationship between the fans and Chanzeri is a massive decline and a non-existent. Them bridges have been burnt massively. He wants £100 million for Sheffield Wednesday, by the way. And I just think it's one of them where you don't know. Sheffield Wednesday goes into abomination. It was a big club. It's got rich history. And no club should ever suffer the consequences that he's putting them under. And I just don't think he cares. This is the thing. I believe he got you in a debt once, and he said to the fans, well, you can help me pay it. I'm just like, are you taking the piss? Like, no owner should ever do that at a football club. Fans ain't paying customers, they're family to that football club, and they care a lot. And when you've got, I remember when we were in administration before, and we were in tough times as a football club back then, about 2000 time, and the players bought into consortium in the end. I think our players had to get us out of debt, our own players, and you're thinking, this is what you look at. Henrik Pedersen is now your manager. He's in a tough situation. I don't know when the coaching staff are going to come in to help him. I know Chris Powell's left. He did well at the football club, but how much more of this can the fans take? People say it's only going to get worse from here.
Yeah, well, I think we've had enough a long, long time ago, to be fair. There's going to be protests at the Leicester game on Sunday. There's going to be protests at the home game against Stoke the following week, and I'm sure there's going to be protests at every league game throughout the whole season until he goes, to be honest. The fans have clubbed together with the Sheffield Wednesday Supporters Trust, and I think we've raised, last time I checked, I think it was £13,000, probably even more at the moment, just to kind of fund these sorts of protests. For those that don't know, the fans that are going to be there on Sunday. I mean, I won't. My sister's decided to get married this Sunday, which at the time when we got this, it's always done in advance, and it's always like a year in advance. You're thinking, wait a minute, that's very close at the start of the season, that. And then it's like, well, it's a Sunday, so I'm thinking, oh, that's all right. And then, of course, the game gets moved. But actually, I think in hindsight, I'm probably quite glad that I'm not going, to be honest, this weekend. But no, those that will be there will be taking the seats late, 5 minutes into the game. The trust have worked with Leicester City, in terms of to orchestrate that and things. There'll be a banner in those empty seats before kick-off, and there's also going to be a plane flying over the King Power on Sunday. I don't know what wording it's going to have on there, but I'm sure it's going to be something to do with Chancery out and sell the club and whatever else. I'm not quite privy to what that's going to be, but you'll see that at some point on Sunday afternoon. But yeah, it's we had enough long time ago. I think obviously he was still funding the football club, and whilst everyone was doing that, there's a lot of people, the way that he is and the way that he comes across. There was a real worry that he was just going to pull the plug at some point, and then that money was just going to disappear. And I think for a lot of fans, people were saying, he's still putting all this money in. We lost £9 million last year, and that was a lot of his money that he was having, to put in to actually fund the football club and keep it afloat and stuff. A lot of people saying the grass isn't always greener. I mean, by God, doesn't have to be much greener than brown, does it? To be at the moment, we are, like I said, we're in the mud right now. And I think it's taking this point for players not to be paid the wages and staff not to be paid, for everyone now to be on board. And we should have been like this a long time ago, but you can't do anything about the past. You can only look forward. And I think right now all the fans are fully behind it. He's starting to get some national media attention now. You've got ITV News, got BBC News as well all over it. You've got all the national newspapers, Sky Sports News reporting on it as well. It's constant now. I mean, you could say it's a little too late, but and like I said, you can't do anything about what's happened in the past, but now it's all over. And I think I was talking to one of the national journalists a couple of days ago, and I think the game on Sunday is going to be the highest attended by the media this weekend, which just goes to show. I mean, I know it's one of the games that's on Sunday, but even still, everyone wants to be at this game, and everyone wants to know what's going off. And for I think the score for us is largely irrelevant, to be honest. I don't think that the actual game of football, I mean, we'll probably get onto it, but I don't think the performance is really, it's kind of secondary, to be honest, to what the whole kind of day is going to be like, really.
It isn't football for the Wednesday fans, is it? Every season you always look forward to going to football and watching your team and supporting the boys. That's the more you can ask. And the fans are always ones that stand by the club no matter how hard things have got. And big respect Sheffield Wednesday fans for actually doing that, by the way, because a lot would have given up. And I know a lot of Sheffield Wednesday fans who I know have done that with the season tickets and that. So it's dark days at Sheffield Wednesday. It's more than football now. That coverage should have happened sooner, but it hasn't. And I think it gives Sheffield Wednesday fans a chance to really get their voices heard at the weekend, knowing it's on Sky. And this is where the world's going to be watching now, to how Chanzeri actually deals with this, by the way, because I think it'll hit him quite significantly in the way he thinks, you know what, maybe I could have handled things differently, but you should have thought about that before the decisions you have been doing, all that quietness. And and big up to the Sheffield Wednesday fans, by the way, who always have a great following. When they do come here, they do sell out. So
I think it's going to be quite moving, to be fair, come 4:35 when, obviously our forward at kickoff, and there'll be no one they're in the corner, aren't you? At the King Power. So obviously when at kickoff and there's no one there, and when the players come out and things, and then on 5 minutes when everyone starts filtering in, I agree with Ray there wholeheartedly, and that's something that I mentioned on our pod last night. I think actually the Leicester fans will probably clap most of the Wednesday fans that are coming in, and I think it will be. I do think it'll be quite moving, to be fair, and I think we'll be singing from for the full, it's normally 90 minutes, for the full 85 minutes of the game non-stop, and it's that kind of siege mentality I feel at the moment. We know that this season is going to be a real struggle, but as fans, we you just go for the day out, you go for the the stuff beforehand, the beers before, you go for the the train journey down with your mates and stuff, and I think that's what it's going to be all about for us this season. And yeah, a lot of gallows humour, and yeah, we'll just have to see what happens.
What's the stance on the players? I know you spoke about it. 16 senior players you've got in the squad. I know Barry Bannon is questionable. He has signed a new contract this week until the EFL did step in yesterday and obviously banned you from signing new players' contracts. What's the stance on how many players you've actually got available for this game?
Yeah, it's not many. We've just announced the squad numbers. There's a 24-man squad, and there's a lot of those that have, making up from the under 23s. To be honest, I think I've got some stats here. I mean, 4 of the 24 are goalkeepers. 6 would make their senior debut if they make any minutes this season. 9 of the 24 haven't even played a minute in the Championship, and I think 12 of the 24 haven't even played a dozen games, in professional football. So, yeah, there's a lot of youngsters in that. We said quite often that the average age of the squad was far too high. When you look at Barry Bannon, 35, Marvin Johnson, 34. There was Michael Smith, and he's 33. Windass was 30. There's a lot of players that were over the age of 30 in the squad. I mean, those that I've just mentioned, Bar Bannon, are now no longer here. And obviously been replaced with absolutely no one. I mean, we scored 60 goals last season. I think we've lost 39 goals just in players leaving the football club. Josh Windass scored 12. He's gone to Wrexham. Michael Smith, he got 8. He's gone to Preston. Callum Patterson's dropped 2 leagues down and gone to MK Dons, even though we offered him a contract. So he clearly, felt that dropping 2 leagues down was better for him. I've already mentioned Jedi Gassama. Anthony Masaba's gone to Turkey. These all these players. I think of the top 6 or 7 goal scorers last season, only Barry Bannon is still at the football club, and he only got 4 goals last season. So yeah, we're going to be really struggling in terms of firepower. Ike Ugbo, the season that you went up into the Premier League, he was there in the second half of the season. It hit a purple patch, and we signed him for $2.5 million. Well, I don't know if he used monopoly money or not. We'll have to wait and see. But that was the figure that was quoted, and he didn't score one goal last season, and it wasn't like he didn't play either. Played a whole host of games and didn't score. We've got Bailey Cadamartri up front. He was at Lincoln. Thought he was going to bag a few goals. He picked up injuries. So you look across the squad, and I think when you do look at the starting 11 or our best 11. It does look okay, to be fair. You've got Max Lowe at left back, Jan Valery at right back. He'll be wearing the number 7 shirt. Why? I have no idea. Why you've got your right back wearing number 7? Not got a clue, but we'll wait and see. And you've got centre back in Dom Iorfa. Bernard's injured, so we'll have a young lad, partner him alongside him. We've got Barry Bannon still, of course, if he can play. If he's been registered or not, which I know you just mentioned before. It's going to be the squad, like I said, on paper looks okay. Look, it's not going to pull up any trees, but you've only got to be better than 3 other clubs down at the bottom. It's just whether we can do that. The problem is, I think I saw one of the comments earlier, is the injuries. Once we pick up injuries, we haven't got any depth whatsoever. We haven't had a great pre-season. It's always, we didn't have the pitches ready at the start of the pre-season, which is criminal for a second tier football club in England. Managers were coming and going, coaches have come and gone. It's all been up in the air. Players not getting paid. The preparation has been absolutely shambolic. To be honest, we finished 12th last season. I said I wanted a boring season, and you can kind of build on that. If you look at it in isolation, finish 12th, the season we're done kind of 4 or 5 games before the end. You can kind of, you can plan everything, you can sort things out. That's gone totally out of the window. And we're sat here now. There was no pre-season games. I think there was 2 behind closed doors, and that was it. The players refused to play the last one last week. So, it's not been ideal preparation, Jack, at all.
I tell you what, we might have to lend you some players and go against the EFL ruling. I know the EFL are waiting for us, but I'm sure we can give you a Patson Daka, a Wout Fass, Yannick Vestergaard, them types of players to help you out along the way.
We'll have anyone. We're really scraping the barrel at the moment. We'll take anyone.
Leicester fans will get rid of them types of players. To be honest, James, he might be in luck for the weekend if you need players. So. I don't know. Leicester's preparation pre-season, it has been late. We have won games. We've obviously got a new manager, Marty Cifuentes, who you'd know well from his time at QPR last season in the Championship. I think this is a real type of game where we can see what Marty's worked on, how good this squad is, and how we're going to play against Sheffield Wednesday. I think this is a game, when kickoff comes, it's about the game itself, taken away from obviously the Sheffield Wednesday situation. It's a game we want to go out and win. And Sheffield Wednesday, you could probably say they're going to park the bus. How do we break Sheffield Wednesday down? I think that's how Sheffield Wednesday can set up. But Leicester are very much the quality that we've got. I think you've got 11 players, aren't you, on the pitch? Pre-season hasn't been great. You've barely had anything to even work on, to be honest. And I think this is where Leicester's going to tire you out with pace and that. And it's about taking advantage, I think it's about us making a statement at the weekend to the league and say, you know what, people have wrote us off because of this points deduction scenario and whatever, but it gives us a chance to get a good goal difference going in a good start to the season, depending obviously on Sheffield Wednesday's situation. So what's like your thoughts on Leicester, looking at our squad and that? How dangerous is really this game taken into consideration?
Well, I look at your squad, and it's a very, very similar situation to 2 years ago when we played Southampton on the opening day, where this is why it annoys me when the transfer window is still open until, it's another 3 weeks until that transfer window shuts, which means that there's a lot of your players, which, having spoken to a few Leicester fans, it looks like most of them will probably get moved on and not be there, come the end of the transfer window, but they are still here now. It's whether, whether they kind of refuse to play or whether they are willing to play in these games. I'm sure, you'll want them to play, in order to, you want your best team out there, your best squad out there. So yeah, you've got some some quality players in your squad, which on paper absolutely blinds us. It's literally men against boys. I know some of your players are fairly young, but I mean, when you look in terms of an actual, the quality level, it is going to be quite telling. And I feel like it's going to be a bit like an FA Cup game this weekend. There's going to be zero expectation on Sheffield Wednesday, which would probably work in our favour if I'm being honest. If we can get to kind of 20-25 minutes and it still be 0-0, then that would be a massive achievement for us. And I feel like the expectation is for us to get absolutely battered. And if we can, like I said, if we can hold it to 0-0 for as long as we possibly can, then and keep some of your players at bay, because you have got some decent players. When I was looking at before, I mean, again, I've not watched much of Leicester, and to be honest, there's been that much stuff happening at Sheffield Wednesday in this summer that I've not taken any notice of any of the football clubs what they've been doing. But yeah, I know Fatawu, he's one that when we played you 2 seasons ago, he looked quite frightening. I don't think it quite worked for him, did it, last season? It didn't quite work for anyone, did it, in Leicester colours last season? But
we took batterings last season.
Yeah, he's one that it kind of like your wide players are really quick, and I think we're going to really struggle, to be honest. We haven't really got any pace in the side whatsoever at the moment, so it's going to be interesting. I think if I were Henrik Pedersen, I'd be showing them the videos of our San Marino setup in all their international games, and perhaps take a leaf out of their book and do something similar.
I think Leicester's attack, Jordan Ayew, Fatawu, Mavididi, Elkanous, that front four is lethal in the Championship. Jordan Ayew, the experience that he's got, he can score goals, he's better down the middle. Leicester, with Marty Cifuentes, we're a side that like to, you defend, your attack's your best part of your defence, and that's how it starts. We press from the front. We're very good in transition. We're very quick. We're fluent under Marty. I think we've learnt that in the pre-season. I think the boys are going to be bouncing for this game, to be fair, after beating Fiorentina 2-0, a side that finished 6th last season in the Serie A. So it's a game we want to win. Like I say, despite this Sheffield Wednesday situation, we have to put that aside and think it's the game, boys. You've got to mentally get into this game, I think a lot of people are saying 3-0 before half time, and how Sheffield Wednesday sort of go about the business, because Henrik Pedersen's he's not going to want to let a lot of goals in, is he, to be fair? I think you lot have got a lot of players where it's like square pegs in round holes type of situation. It's like...
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Henrik Pedersen's been here. He was Danny Rill's assistant when Danny Rill came in. Henrik Pedersen left his managerial role in, I want to say, in Denmark, to actually come as assistant manager. He's done his first interview today, and he absolutely loves the club, loves the area, loves the city. That's why I wanted to stay. And I think really it is a bit of a win-win situation for him, just because of the scenario. He probably knows that he won't get the sack, and I say that now, but we'll wait until another 10 games time. But in terms of the situation, he knows that he probably won't get paid off or anything like that. I don't know how long he's signed a contract for, and I think everyone understands the restrictions that we've got. So in his hands, though, you say don't your hands tied behind your back. I think he's in a straitjacket, and the key chucked off a cliff, to be honest, in terms of what he's got at his disposal. He's not even got a backroom staff at the moment. The under-21s coaches are having to step up and become first-team coaches to help out, which is the dire situation that we find ourselves in. But Henrik Pedersen was very much involved in the attacking side of thing, in terms of attacking coaching and stuff like that. Josh Windass came out in a podcast and pretty much told everyone that. So when you say about defensively, it's going to be interesting because Henrik Pedersen didn't really do any of that, and it's going to be interesting to see how we set up, because last season defensively we weren't great. We scored quite a few goals, but we conceded a hell of a lot of goals as well, and got a few good hidings. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what he does this weekend and indeed for the rest of the season as well.
This is where I look at Marty. His philosophy. He couldn't really do much at QPR, could he, with the quality that he had at QPR? At Leicester, I think he's got a lot more quality. What did you sort of learn from Marty Cifuentes at QPR last season in the Championship?
We beat them once and we drew with them as well. I think last season. So we beat them down at Loftus Road in what was a decent game. It was okay. I think he obviously wants to be on the front foot. He's fairly similar to Danny Röhl in that regards. In terms of playing out from the back and everything, which most modern managers do. Again, I didn't really. It's difficult to kind of know what a manager's like, really, when you don't really see a great deal. I didn't really pay much attention to QPR, to be honest, Jack, if I'm being perfectly honest. I suppose he's been quite late in coming into Leicester, hasn't he? You'd left it late to get your manager in. So I suppose you don't know a great deal about him either, do you, to be honest?
Do you know what? I had to do a lot of research on him, and that when you obviously Van Nistelrooy left at the end of June. But then it were always the case of who comes in. Andy King, a former Leicester player, obviously he's in the coaching staff now. He had to get them ready for pre-season. So Leicester still wasn't sure who to be thrown about. You had Sean Dyche, you had Danny Röhl. Chris Wilder got mentioned at one point. Leicester fans weren't happy about that one, neither Gary O'Neill. So it were always who would replace Ruud van Nistelrooy. I think with Marty's more of an Enzo Maresca type of manager. He's Spanish. He's worked under the Ajax Academy. He's learned a lot from watching as a fan in the Johan Cruyff Barcelona side that he's took a lot from into his own style of football. So I think he's a very organised manager. He's very much head screwed on and knows what he wants and how to get it. Obviously the pre-season, he's been quite sharp. You can see everything that he wants to do. And this is going to be telling at the weekend to how good Leicester City are against, you'd probably say a bit part Sheffield Wednesday side compared to what you had last season. So I just think we've got to go for it full on, to be fair, at the weekend. I know some Leicester fans have said, well, Sheffield Wednesday will probably score one at least. I'd say, yeah, if Barry Bannon were playing. Because Barry Bannon, I remember last time we played you in the Championship, James, at Hillsborough. And Barry Bannon, did he have like 2 shots in about the opening 5 minutes of the game? He had Leicester well under the cosh.
Yeah, the King Power. Yeah, I can remember that game, and I thought, was that the King Power? Was that at Hillsborough? I can't remember now. Oh yeah, when
5 minutes. Hold on a minute.
Yeah, it could have easily been 1 or 2 in the first opening minutes, as you just mentioned there. Yeah, I remember that game. It's funny actually. That was the one where it kind of kicked. I know it sounds daft, but we got an equaliser very late on, and that kind of kicked on our season. Yeah, Jeff Hendrick, the only goal that he scored. Jeff Hendrick playing paddle with Stormzy. I mean, like, what's all that about? But anyway, he scored that goal. I think that was the only goal he scored for us. And yeah, it was a draw. It felt like a win, and then that did kickstart that little mini revival almost. And obviously, we went on to stay up, and an absolute miracle that we did on the last day of the season, having been absolutely dead and buried at the start of the season. 10 games in, 12 games in, no win. Manager sacked after 10. Didn't win a game until Rotherham in the 13th game of the season. So yeah, I can remember that game. And Barry Bannon is great. He's another, since you've last seen him, he's another 2 years older. So his legs are as much as he keeps running and running and running, his legs are getting a little bit older now. And last season he did pick up a few niggly injuries and things, so it's going to be very telling. He's not really got a squad to surround himself with either, so he's going to be needed. And there's some other players, certainly some of these youngsters, that are going to have to step up to the plate. Some of them, again, total baptism of fire. They've got a chance now. These youngsters, they've got a real chance of getting some minutes under the belt, and really, putting some good performances in, which could hold them in good stead, because most of our youngsters, they very rarely fall into kind of the EFL football. It's more like National League or even further down the pyramid, to be honest. So, yeah, if they can get some championship experience under the belt, that'll at least help them in their future.
You have to respect Barry Bannon's commitment, though. you know, not many players would probably stick around in this situation. But like he said in his opening video, and I got sent it the other day by a good mate of mine, around the ground. He put it on Instagram, and he was on about Barry Bannon, how much he loves Sheffield Wednesday. His kids are very much Sheffield Wednesday. They love Sheffield Wednesday. It's family in it, and this is what you love from your players to hear. You know how bad the situation is. People always say you have to go through the bad times to enjoy the good times, and Sheffield Wednesday are in a dark cloud at the minute, but hopefully you really start to overcome that very soon.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to Barry Bannon, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I didn't want him to stay this season, and now that's not because I don't like him as a player or anything like that. It's probably quite the opposite, to be honest. I just feel this season is going to be that bad. I didn't want what could potentially be his last season for Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah,
being this one, being a relegation and being kind of like overshadowed by everything else that's happening at the football club. You know, the fact, you know, but then again, he didn't get a send off. So if he was to leave, he would have just disappeared and walked out the football club. And a player that's, you know, into his 11th season now, and in the, I think he's 5th or 6th in the all-time, you know, in appearance numbers for Sheffield Wednesday as well in history. For that to happen would be absolutely criminal. But I don't want him, you know, I don't want it to be like one season too many, if you know what I mean. I don't want them to be misplaced passes and then fans kind of getting on his back and saying, oh, his legs have gone and all this, that, and the other, which, you know, if the season's going to be as bad as what we expect, as much as I've said that it's going to be siege mentality, it's easy to say that when we're all sat on 0 points. You know, when we're cut adrift at the bottom of the league by 10 or 15 points, you know, only 10 games into the season or whatever it's going to be, things get a little bit more difficult, and you know, and that kind of siege mentality starts to wear thin a little bit. And I just didn't want him to kind of go through any of that. Having said that, he signed a contract, he's staying, so he's not leaving. And yeah, it's just a huge boost more than anything else. It, you know, that he is staying, he's sticking to it. There's a lot of uncertainty whether he was or wasn't going to be here. There was also a lot of rumours of other players leaving. I know apparently Max Load handed his notice in, which, you know, I think we're 7 or 8 days away from kind of knowing if he's going to be leaving or not. But I asked the question, kind of, is Barry Bannon staying? Is that going to, you know, keep some other players there as well? You know, or other players going to look and think, well, the captain's staying, you know, if it's good enough for him, then perhaps I do need to stick this out. I think the opposite would have happened if he'd have gone. I think that would have been it. They would have all just probably left the football club, and we would be sat here playing the under-21s. Like I said, that's not happened. He's signed a new deal, and yeah, when he talks about his daughter, and he told his daughter that he might be leaving Sheffield Wednesday, and she started crying. The following day, he told her that, you know, he's actually staying at Sheffield Wednesday, and she started crying again and said they were happy tears. So it clearly, you know, Barry. I know he's a diehard Celtic fan, but if you cut him open, he would certainly bleed blue and white.
I know this is some call it a meaningless game, Sheffield Wednesday, to be honest, with the situation it's happening. The game comes second to the club's problems, doesn't it? If you talk to Sheffield Wednesday fans and you say about the game, I don't think they care about the game, to be fair. I think it's more about the situation. How do you so taking away the situation at the club at the minute, how was your sort of thoughts ahead of this game?
We hadn't had a pre-season. I have absolutely no idea. Obviously, most of the players that are going to be setting foot on Sunday,
Leicester.
Obviously, we do know them, but obviously, yeah, I think, you know, in terms of the strike force, Ugbo hasn't scored in over a year now in the league. Yeah, Bailey Cadamartri, only scored a few goals.
He's not played for us.
Yeah, Bailey Cadamartri only scored a few goals. Down at Lincoln. The wingers, you know, I think it's going to be kind of Jamal Lowe on one side and Olaf Kabatsky, who had a big injury, you know, last season as well. Only played a handful of games, and then it's going to be. I think it's going to be a gritty performance. It has to be. You know, I think they all know the assignment. I think they all know that it's just got to be all hands to the pump. And actually, just it's almost kind of damage limitation. To be fair, yeah. I just want it there to be, like I said, some sort of semblance of a performance. I don't want them to just throw the towel in and just kind of give up or anything like that. I'm sure they won't. Of course, they are professional footballers after all, but I don't want it to be a defense against attack either. I don't just want it to be. I know I was joking earlier and saying about San Marino, but I don't want it to be just one man up front and everyone behind the ball and things like that, because it's just not enjoyable at all. No. Even though that's kind of what this season's going to be like. We've got to get in your half. We've got to have a few chances, and I think again, if we can keep it at 0-0 for 20-25 minutes, I think. I don't know what the Leicester fans are like, but they'll probably you're expecting to give us an absolute pasting and it to be over by half time. Yeah. It might well be like that, but if we can get anywhere near half time and keeping the scoreline down or even level, I think I would take that as a bit of an achievement, to be honest.
That's what it is with Leicester. We expect to get goals. We expect. You know what? We haven't had many feelings of winning over since with last season. We hardly won bloody the amount of fingers on my hand. Let's be honest. We've had an absolute hiding in the Premier League last season, and this season you need to win as many games as you can. I'd say we've got the best. What is your thoughts on where Leicester City finish?
Yeah, I think it all depends on the points deduction that you get, to be honest. I think if I only caught the last bit of what you said there as well, so you said whereabouts you're finishing. But I think, if you get that points deduction, that's going to absolutely scupper your plans, to be honest. Obviously depending on how many points that is. I think realistically, when you look at your squad, and again, I know obviously it might change come the end of the transfer window. I know there's not been many outgoings, if any. There's certainly not been any incomings either.
Robinson's leaving for 18 mil to West Ham. Ndidi's gone to Besiktas, and Connor Cody's left for Wrexham.
Yeah, so there's a few that's left, but it's whether you can kind of keep hold of the majority of your squad and whether financial fair play is going to kind of allow you to do that, obviously. So I think that it all does depend on that, but you've got to be looking at going up again. Obviously, depending on the points deduction. But you saw two seasons ago that you had a monumental gap at the top. I don't think this season. All right, I know the clubs that have come up. Birmingham are going to put on a bit of a charge, I think, this season, but. Are you there, Jack? Or have I lost you?
James, are you back with me?
I am, but is that you or is that me that's the issue?
Did yours crash as well?
Yeah, I was just talking to myself for 2 minutes there. So
my crashed and all, and then you'd froze on my end, and I thought, what's going on? Yeah, but carry on.
Look, just like Chansiri is not paying the players. I don't think I've paid for my internet, so he's one of
Wi-Fi.
Of course it is. Yeah, I've been too busy making the t-shirts to worry about paying for my internet. So if people order some t-shirts, I might be able to pay for it. So just there, but no, I think you've got to be going for top top two, and getting back into the Premier League. Of course, again, if you get the points deduction, it's going to make it a little bit difficult. But I think you've certainly got the squad if you can keep it together. Really, that's the main thing. But FFP, it's those three letters that everyone's going to fear for you. I think, to be honest,
I'm going to get on to score prediction. How do you sort of see this? I mean, the biggest score in the Championship in history is 8-0. As it stands, I think Hull City I think Hull was a part of that game, by the way. How do you see this with the squad you're putting out against a good Leicester City side who really need to stake a claim in this league this season? How do you see it going? How bad can it get?
I don't know. We've been saying throughout the whole pre-season, can it get any worse, or it can't get any worse than this? And then obviously it's that Mick McCarthy meme.
Sounds like Mick McCarthy.
It can, yeah. Look, I have absolutely no idea how this one's going to pan out. I think if I was a betting man, I would be 4 goals and above. To be honest, this season, that's how for this game on Sunday. Sorry, that's how I feel it's going to pan out. I think there's going to be a lot of expectation of it being an absolute cricket score.
Yeah.
But look, stranger things have happened. I have no idea how we're going to play out. I think it's going to be that siege mentality. I think it is going to be. You've seen a lot of cup upsets in the past, and I think this is going to be similar sort of feeling. I think cliche. Fans being the 12th man and all that, but once we actually do get into the ground, 5 minutes in, I think it is going to be raucous in that away end, and I think the players will probably try and almost prove a point, really. And look, they should put 110% effort in every single week. We know deep down that doesn't happen, but if there's ever a game where you kind of think that's going to happen in your favour, it's going to be this one for us. First game of the season, massive underdogs. Nobody expects us to do anything. That being said, it would not surprise me if it's 4 or 5-0 on Sunday. I can't see us getting a goal. I've seen a couple of people kind of predicting that we'll score, but I think that's more from a Leicester pessimist perspective more than kind of knowing what we've done. We haven't got any goal scorers in the side. We haven't brought any new players in. We're just relying on what we've got, and we'll just have to wait and see. If it's less than 4-0. I will take that as a bit of a moral victory. In all honesty,
I think Leicester go for domination. I think we've got to take advantage of this situation. To be honest, with the team that you're putting out, I'm just hoping you lot don't park the bus and put 11 players on the line. To be fair, and we could call it bloody what did they used to call it back in the day? Red horse, where you'd like bend over in the goal and you kick the ball and your mate would stand in goal, then the next person would go on the line. We've got to really go for the kill. To be honest, I think we've got to prove a point that we're up to scratch in this league and get off to a really good start. So I'm not in the frame of 8s, 9s, 7s. I think I'll put a bit of respect on it. To be fair, reasonably, I think we can score a massive hell lot of goals without sounding too towards the whole game, but I've got the prediction of 4-0. I think 4, and it could be more. That's exactly how I'm going to put it. So, is there a way for Leicester fans to support the unpaid staff at Wednesday? I mean,
if you just look for the Sheffield Wednesday Supporters Trust that I mentioned earlier, there's a fundraiser there. Some of that money is going towards the protests, but there is also kind of a relief fund for the staff as well. But I do believe that tomorrow all of the players, all of the staff and the clubs that are owed money by Sheffield Wednesday will be paid tomorrow. So we will be no longer under an embargo. So 3 weeks to go till the end of the transfer window. Jack, I had a yellow tie for kind of transfer deadline day. I chucked it in the bin because what's the point in having transfer deadline day when you can't sign anyone? If we're going to be out of this transfer embargo, I might have to get it out, and you never know. I might be signing a few players between now and then, but we have to pay them first.
James, a question from A.
Yeah, I do have a YouTube channel. Just search for the Wednesday Till I Die podcast or at WTRD pod, and you can find it there. We normally talk about this game. Well, the game from weekend on a Sunday evening, but as I mentioned earlier, if you were listening, I'm at my sister's wedding on Sunday, so you have to wait another day for us to talk about this game. So yeah, Monday evening from 8 o'clock is where you can listen to us. I think it'll be gallows humour on Monday. I don't think we'll be moaning and whinging too much. Might be moaning and whinging about the whole kind of bigger picture, but certainly about the game. Who knows? We might even get a goal. Who knows?
James, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate your time as ever, brother. I really hope this situation gets sorted out at Sheffield Wednesday and you sack that absolute clown. Chanziri out from probably all the Leicester fan base and all the football fans around the world. To be honest, you guys need to get gone of him. And
yeah, I mean, if Leicester fans can join in with the chance that we're getting going on, then that will be fantastic as well. Yeah, just yeah, we're in a bit of a mess at the moment, and there's, you know, people are saying is a light at the end of the tunnel, or is that just an oncoming train? At the moment, it's been a lot of oncoming trains, to be fair. So, yeah. So apologies. Yeah, we're hoping that these, you know, there's going to be better times, but yeah, this season's going to be a bit of a write-off, to be fair.
That's it. Football joins together in situations like this, and yeah, hopefully Wednesday get out of this shit and get their own club back, because that's what they need, you know. And James, all the best, mate. And I'll catch you again for the away trip to Wednesday and next year, which is I believe April time.
Well, hopefully the North Stand's open by then, and we'll have full 4 stands open for that game. But I'll not hold my breath. We'll have to see.
It's been a pleasure. Take care,
no
James.
Probs. You too. Cheers.
Appreciate it, Adam, mate. Guys, as always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new and you haven't subscribed already. If you're watching this preview on playback, Sheffield Wednesday fans, let me know your feeling towards Chanziri and how bad things have got on Sheffield Wednesday and your thoughts on the game. Leicester fans, let me know your score predictions as well if you're watching this on playback as well. We also have got the late night whistle coming up in about 20 minutes time, so join us for that. We have a lot to talk about regarding Leicester City at the minute. So also go and check out the championship predictions, as we were joined by the Suffolk Crunch in Rich and Elm, which is Steve. So go and check that out. That's live on the channel now. So if you've missed it, go and check it out. Let me know your predictions ahead of all the games, weekend stuff. Thanks for coming on, everyone. Really appreciate it. Catch soon. Keep it at the final whistle and take care.